So if you borrow $400,000 at 6.5%, a 30-year mortgage will cost you roughly around $912,000. If you extend that to 50 years, you're looking at well over $1.3 million. So basically almost a half a million dollars more in interest in comparison to a 30-year mortgage for the exact same house. What's going on, folks? Eddie Carrington, Mayor of Flux City. And today we are reacting to the Trump administration floating the idea for a 50-year mortgage, which is pretty wild. The idea is to basically use this 50-year mortgage as an option to help with making home ownership more affordable. But as somebody who's been in the real estate game for close to 20 years, I can tell you that stretching a mortgage to half a century doesn't make housing cheaper. It just makes you in debt longer, and you in turn are paying a lot more back to the bank than you would if you were to do a 30-year mortgage. So let's get into it.
Move over 30-year mortgage. The Trump administration is moving forward with the plan to introduce a 50-year fixed-rate mortgage, a reform officials believe could make homeownership more feasible for millions of Americans amid soaring prices and affordability concerns. Now, President Trump first floated the idea Saturday on social media, but not everyone is a fan. Critics warn extending mortgages that long, it can essentially result in people paying far more interest and potentially trap borrowers in debt for a lifetime.
Let's check out Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, to see what folks are saying about this recommendation, this possible approach to home ownership. This may be one of my favorite ones. 50-year mortgages, a cutting-edge strategy to the housing crisis. You only pay $500,000 more in interest, but it's $600 less each month. Not sure if that's that good of a sales pitch. Here's one that is for a 50-year mortgage by Keith Richmond. A 50-year mortgage isn't about lifelong debt, it's about access. It gives first-time buyers a shot at owning instead of renting. You don't have to stay in the home for 50 years. Most people don't. I think the average is anywhere from 7 to 10 years. You can buy a starter home, make payments while building equity, then sell and use the profit to move into your next home with a stronger down payment, or even shift to a shorter 15 or 30-year loan. It's a tool that opens the door for people who otherwise couldn't get in, not a trap that keeps them there. That's a good way to look at it as well. Somebody actually asked Grok, how much is $600 a month invested at 15% API over 50 years? So let's say theoretically you got into a 50-year mortgage. Per the previous tweet, that you save roughly around $600 a month for that proposed example. And you in turn took that $600 and put it into an investment that gains you 15% APY, compounded monthly over 50 years. Growth calculates that would be worth about $55.45 million. Thanks to compounding. So let's say theoretically you are signing up for a 50-year mortgage and you still are able to afford to store away an extra $600 a month in this theoretical annuity or investment account that gains you 15% return year over year. You'd be sitting pretty. You'd be able to basically pay off your mortgage a lot sooner than 50 years with those earnings. But of course, that's just theoretical. If you're signing up for a 50-year mortgage, you're more than likely going to be needing that $600 monthly difference for living expenses. What everyone is failing to see is, yes, math-wise, it is not the best thing to do, but you can't put a price on home ownership, and the feeling of first-timers having skin in the game rather than renting forever. An entire generation is growing up broke and pissed. And let's look at one more, basically turning homes into lifelong subscriptions. I mean, technically they are, based off of the property taxes that you got to pay, even when your property is paid off. But here, the bank wins. Your grandkids inherit your debt, which is not necessarily true entirely, and they'll still call it innovation. Now, yeah, your grandkids may in turn take over the debt when you pass away if there is still a mortgage on the property. And so there is a scenario where they do inherit your mortgage depending on how you strategically leave your property once you pass away. As this person is saying, debt would not be inherited. They could walk away or sell the house, and they can do that as well. But all of these are good points, and I really appreciate Twitter for allowing us to see what the people really think about pretty much any subject, including this one. So let's get back to the video.
Extending a mortgage from 30 to 50 years, it could potentially drop the monthly payment, but there are drawbacks. What are they?
That's right. So Trump is obviously trying to find an answer on affordability for housing, which right now we're seeing one of the worst housing markets that we've seen in recent times. And so the 50-year mortgage is a play to lower people's monthly mortgage payments. But the downside is, especially early on, all of that payment will be going to interest. And of course, since you're paying over 50 years and not over 30 years, you're going to be paying off that mortgage for a lot longer. So the details are still to be worked out, but it looks to be like the president's looking for a quick fix to a market that is fundamentally broken right now.
So if you borrow $400,000 at 6.5%, a 30-year mortgage will cost you roughly around $912,000. If you extend that to 50 years, you're looking at well over $1.3 million. So basically almost $500,000 more in interest in comparison to a 30-year mortgage for the exact same house.
Now, besides a potentially lower monthly payment, are there any other potential advantages for homeowners?
Well, if you're refinancing, you lock in a low rate for a long period of time, like those who managed to refinance when interest rates were low during the post-COVID era. Locking in those rates for a 50-year time period can, of course, be advantageous. Of course, most people do not spend 30 or 50 years in their home and tend to refinance or sell after 7 to 9 years. And so there would clearly be a lot of buying and selling within that 50-year period.
I think we're in a different time. I think that the amount of properties that we need as a country is only increasing. The number of doors that are being produced yearly, has drastically slowed down in comparison to past generations. We're at a point where this housing shortage is not going away anytime soon. So, that approach of buying a house and staying in it for a few years and selling it within 7, 9, 10 years and leveling up to a bigger property, I think is not necessarily as realistic as it once was in the past, given that we're in a different time and we're seeing more and more families and homeowners staying in their properties longer, and that's just gonna distress the overall housing market even more, and to the point of potentially buying a house and getting a mortgage for 50 years on it with a strategy of possibly selling it in 7 or 9 years. I think that's less likely than ever before.
The administration, they're suggesting that the 50-year plan would break the housing market gridlock and eventually even lead to cheaper housing. Is that accurate?
It's certainly possible, but it's hard to see the impact right now. Of course, because you've got those lower housing starts, you're having fewer houses being built. And so right now, adding more mortgage buyers to the market is going to bid up prices on the inventory that exists. And housing prices are already going up.
The average national home price as of August 2025 is $413,500. So just move to the city of Detroit. Come on to the city. You have ample opportunity to buy a property that is not going to cost you $413,000. And you're going to have a beautiful home, brick home. You have so many different options here in the city of Detroit. You know what? Let me show you. So here we are again, back at the Realtor website, and we're looking through Detroit proper. 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,000 square feet, $174,000. Beautiful home, recently updated. New roof, new windows, kitchen looks solid. Appliances probably come with the purchase of this property. I'm not exactly sure if those are AI generated pictures with furniture added to this site or not. You can't really tell nowadays, but let's imagine even if they are AI assisted photos, you could really do some things with a property like this, right? Already fixed up for you. Basement bathroom with a full shower and obviously toilet here. So I mean, 174,000. Let's check another house. So once again, the average national home price is $413,000. This is a property in the city of Detroit. Beautiful, beautiful property, brick home, amazing neighborhood, 48221 zip code, $299,000. 4 bed, 3.5 bath, 2,100 square feet. Let's check it out. Once again, they said the average was 413. Look at how beautiful this property is. We're talking the city of Detroit. Comes with a garage, beautiful backyard. I mean, look at that place, right? $299,000. You can't beat it. You cannot beat it. So, oh my goodness, look at that kitchen. So that was a quick shameless plug for why you should move to the city of Detroit and why you may not necessarily need a 50-year mortgage to buy a property here in the city of Detroit that can rival any other city and any other home, more specifically, quality wise in the country. You're not going to find these types of properties built any better than what you can find here in the city of Detroit, especially when they're well upkept. And I always say this in a lot of my videos, these types of properties would take over $1 million to replace. So if this property theoretically were to burn down, you're not building this type of property with these types of bones. Look at that wood flooring. There's probably plaster throughout a number of these rooms, brick home, fireplace, and probably multiple rooms. You just can't rebuild something like this for less than $1 million.
What are the major reasons on why housing is so expensive here in America?
We simply have not built enough housing. We have run under trend in the housing that we need to add since the global financial crisis, and we need to be adding millions of more units to really make a dent in affordability.
All right, now the average first-time home buyer is now 40 years old. That's as close an age to when they can begin getting Social Security as to when they graduated high school. So is there any reason for optimism here?
So imagine if the average home buyer is at 40 and they walk into a bank. You don't usually walk into a bank and ask for a mortgage nowadays. You make a phone call or you go online. But let's say you walk into a bank at 40 years of age and you say, "Hey, look, I found a property that I want and I would like to put a 50-year mortgage on this property," because I would assume that banks aren't going to be able to restrict the 50-year mortgage to people based off of their age. I could be wrong. Maybe there is something that says in the fine print that, this person can't be over a particular age in order to be able to get approved for a 50-year mortgage plan. But if I'm 40 and I'm looking for a 50-year mortgage, that means that this property that I'm putting a 50-year mortgage on won't be paid off until I'm 90 years old. So the 50-year mortgage may sound like a creative fix to making housing more affordable, but I kind of look at this as putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. If you want to make home ownership more accessible, we need more homes. It's as simple as that. We need to figure out a way to build more homes for Americans. And as simple as it sounds, that's probably one of the biggest challenges we're facing as a country, getting the proper number of doors, getting housing to a point where it services the amount of people that are in need of housing. And so this is not an easy fix. This is an option to add to the long list of potential options that homeowners, need to have in order to make an informed decision. But this isn't going to be something for everybody. There could be some strategy that obviously this makes sense for, but a better strategy, in my opinion, is to, instead of going and purchasing a house that averages $413,000, you come to Detroit and you buy a property here for 100, 150, $200,000. And that's a good starter home for you. You're able to purchase a solid, sound property, good bones. More than likely, it's going to be brick. You may even get lucky and have a nice 2-car garage. You'll have a basement, no crawl space. There's so many different opportunities and options here in the city of Detroit when it comes to real estate and home ownership. Yeah, you will have to deal with some challenges moving to a city like the city of Detroit. There's no ifs, ands, or maybes about it. But true home ownership and accessible housing is here in the city of Detroit. Make no mistake. And so I appreciate you chiming in, listening to me ramble, and I'll see you in the next video.